Wow, okay, this is the first time I've hooked my camera up to my computer monitor, which is right behind me, and I could see my face, and the weirdest part is that because my monitor is like short and like long, my face is really stretched, so this will be interesting. But I would like to see if I'm in focus because I have had some focus problems. Great intro, right? I'm the best YouTuber ever. If you don't know me, I'm Yelly, or Yellbell Beauty, here on Instagram and on TikTok. Mostly on Instagram. Oh, and now on Threads, because today specifically I want to play with the new Ensley Rain Crystal Skies palette in collaboration with Shifty.Shadow, or Katie with a D. This palette's really beautiful, but I want to talk about, you know, pricing, things like that, the color story, the quality of shadows, etc, etc. So we are going to do that. I've already played with the blues and the greens in here on 2 separate occasions. Today we're going to play with the pinks and purples to go with our outfit, which you can't see right now, by the way, but I am wearing my Home Mess Tom merch. So I'm actually going to link Tom's merch below. If you don't follow Tom, they are amazing. So please follow Tom. They're awesome. They're on YouTube. They're on Instagram. Definitely going to link Tom's merch down below. Please go support them. My face is already moisturized, but I'm gonna start off with some sunscreen. So this is the Hero Force Shield. I don't really love this. It has a green tint. I thought it would be nice for my redness because my skin does get kind of red. It gives me kind of a white cast, which is interesting because it's green, but I'm really close to finishing it. Like every day when I do my makeup, I'm like, I'm so close to finishing it, and then there's just more and more. It's like the sunscreen that keeps on giving. Even though I'm doing sunscreen first, I am an eyes before base kind of person, so we are gonna do our eyes first, but sunscreen first always, you know? So yesterday I did what I would call the most chaotic get ready with me. I was not in focus for like 99% of it. I accidentally shut the camera off when I was doing my eyes. I wish I could tell you how I even did that. I just decided let's scrap it and do it again today. So I used a mixture of Katie's palette and then some of the Touch of Glam Sandman shadows. But today let's just use Katie's palette, and I, you know, obviously want to talk about a few different things. So I'm gonna prime my eyes. I have the Urban Decay Primer Potion here. Let me know down below what you think of this setup. So I have this curtain behind me usually, and then this is like my actual wall, but on the other side of this wall is my front door. Those of you that are longtime followers recognize this wall because it used to be the background of my pictures. It was this wall and the area by my front door where my keys hang, which is behind this curtain right now. But I set the camera up and this angle was there, and it was kind of like, oh, I kind of like it. You can see all my nail polishes in the background. You can see some art. This art's by Auric illustration. They're Sailor Moon prints. If you didn't know, I love Sailor Moon. I was saying the other day, I really need to go through my brushes. Like, obviously, a lot of these need cleaning, but I need to declutter them, but that's, you know, a whole other thing. So, excuse me if I spend like 90% of my time here editing out the fact that I am scavenging for brushes. I think I want to start with like pinks. I want to do like a pink into purple gradient. So I think I want to start with right here, Nephophile. I have no idea if I'm saying that right. These are all like crystal names, I think. We're going to start with Nephophile. Some of these brushes I don't even know if they make them anymore because I do have some Morphe brushes that have oddly stood the test of time. This is a Morphe M503. I'm going to take Nephophile on that. So one thing in particular I wanted to talk about with this palette. The price of this palette is $74. And a lot of people on Reddit, on the Beauty Guru Chatter Reddit specifically, were complaining and saying that they thought this palette was too expensive because Ensley Rain private labels. And they revealed this palette around the same time that they revealed the new Blend Bunny palette, so a lot of people were like, look at the comparison in price. I can't speak to the new Blend Bunny palette. I didn't get it. It is a beautiful palette, but I actually duped it out. I haven't posted it yet, but I did dupe it. So people were complaining that this palette was $74, and I wanted to do some math as a comparator here. So let's like take a quick pause. Okay, let's find like a shade I could use to compare. So this palette is $74 and it comes with 20 shades. 5 of them are hand pressed. The other 15, I actually cannot find information on whether they are private labeled, lab created, or hand pressed. I have no idea. If anyone knows that and you could comment down below, I'll pin it, or if I find out, I'll comment down below and pin it. But as of right now, I'm not sure about the mattes, but I know for a fact the shimmers are hand pressed. It does say that on the website. Shadows in here, as I, can take one out. Look to be your regular 27mm pan. I don't think my camera is going to focus on that. Let's pause and oh, got that to focus. You could see that's a pretty good comparator. They might even be a little bit bigger than a 27mm pan. So this is Divina Fairy Fire, because this does look a bit thicker to me. But for the sake of math, let's say these are like a regular 27mm pan. So now if we're gonna say that they're the same as like a Divina Shadow, a Terra Moon's Shadow, a Dandelion's Co-Shadow, anything like that, if we're gonna say that they are that standard eyeshadow pan, that means they hold around 0.07 ounces of product, which is roughly 2 grams, okay? A gram is like 0.035 ounces of product. Let's say roughly one of these shadows has 2 grams, okay? So I broke that down by gram because I think that that's like a universal number that is rounded that people will like get behind, So this Ensley Rain palette, specifically Katie's Collab, retails again for $74, has 20 shades, and each shade has roughly 2 grams of shadow, okay? That's like what we're saying. It could be more, but I can't find information about exact pan measurements, but it seems to be 27mm, regular 2 grams, okay? It broken down, that is $1.86 a gram. All right, so $1.86 per half an eyeshadow. That is what we've got here. I tried to find a comparator that's less in price and a comparator that's more in price. So the comparator that is more in price is the Natasha Denona Gold palette. So I went to like the extreme. The Natasha Denona Gold palette retails for $129 US, okay? And it has 15 shades in it. The 15 shades in there, which is interesting, this is the first time I've ever noticed this, each pan is 0.08 ounces. A Natasha Denona shadow, while looks very large, is actually deceivingly small. It is not much bigger than a regular 27mm eyeshadow pan. Natasha Denona shadows as 0.08 ounces are about 2.27 grams of product in there, in comparison to like a regular 27mm eyeshadow has 2 grams of product. The Natasha Denona palettes, the big ones, right? This is not a midi palette. This is a big $129 palette. Only has about 0.27 grams more than a standard Terra Moon's, Divina, any other like eyeshadow that you could buy as a single eyeshadow, okay? So that was interesting to me. But broken down by gram, okay, $129, 15 pans, and each one is 0.08 ounces, which is 2.27 grams. Natasha Denona Gold palette is $3.79 a gram. That is more than double the price of the Ensley Rain palette per gram. Okay, again, it's $129. That is a more expensive palette. It is twice the amount of this palette, but that's just like the comparator, okay? Then I did a Blend Bunny palette, just because everybody was saying that they thought that this new Blend Bunny palette was so much cheaper, so it was the first brand that came to mind. I have the Blend Bunny Surge palette. On the back of the Blend Bunny Surge palette, it says that each eyeshadow is 1 gram. There are 30 pans in the Blend Bunny Surge palette, and the Blend Bunny Surge palette retails for $43 US. So that means that the Blend Bunny Surge palette retails for $1.43 a gram. So about 30 cents less than the Ensley Rain palette, but it has less product than the Ensley Rain palette. Because again, the Blend Bunny shadows are 1 gram each, and the Ensley Rain shadows as 27mm pans are 2 grams each. So this, although it has 20 shades, has 40 grams of product, and Blend Bunny, while it has 30 shades, is 30 grams of product. So that's like the comparator I wanted to make there. And again, I don't want to make it seem like I'm knocking on Blend Bunny. I just wanted to do some math, okay? That's like the comparator that I gave. Let's continue on my eyes while I do this. I'm going to take the shade Amethyst right here on a Blend Bunny B5. So math-wise, that's what I got broken down. Now, if you're gonna say like, well, does that mean it's worth it? This is the thing, and I feel like I say this all the time. What is worth it to you, right? Because if you paid for a $129 Natasha Denona palette, then that means it's probably worth it to you. Or if you paid for a $128 Pat McGrath palette, that means it's probably worth it to you, right? So that means that you are willing to pay more money for a product that you think is a superior product. Now, this is the part that really bothers me, and those of you that know me know this a lot. But Reddit has this huge misconception of what private labeling is. So I want to do a more in-depth video on this, I think, but I really want to just kind of give like a quick chat right now about like, what is private labeling? Okay, like I feel like this could be just like a quick educational lesson. Okay, so I have some private labeled palettes here, okay? And this is just for like an example. This is the Pink Crush Lucid Dreams palette. This is private labeled. This is the Fantasy Cosmetica Bard palette. This is private labeled. This is the Ensley Rain Strawberry Dream palette, and this is private labeled. So I'm gonna show you a good example right here between these palettes. Okay, we're gonna take Sunset from the Ensley Rain Strawberry Moon palette, okay? And now we're gonna take Mythic from the Fantasy Cosmetica Bard palette. See that? Sunset, Mythic. Do you see how these are exactly the same shade? This isn't like they're close. This isn't like, oh, they're a different formula, but they're the same color. This is exactly the same eyeshadow from probably the same supplier in two different eyeshadow palettes. Now, I could probably do that with like a few other ones, right? So we could do it with Sugar Drizzle. We could do it with this Pink Crush palette right here. We could do it with every private labeled palette because this palette specifically from Ensley Rain has like all the common ones in it, which is why I have it, right? It's a good for me, a really good tool and a great travel companion instead of bringing like, you know, my really, really expensive like Cleona Multichromes, for example. I'm not trying to knock on the brand. I'm not trying to like, you know, talk crap or anything. What I'm saying is that private labeling is a company will sell eyeshadows in bulk. So this gold eyeshadow that we had in the Fantasy Cosmetica Bard palette, that we had in the Ensley Rain Strawberry Moon palette that is exactly the same, a supplier maybe sold, let's say, 1,000 of those to each company. They sold 1,000 to Fantasy Cosmetica, they sold 1,000 to Ensley Rain, okay? I don't know numbers for sure, I'm just like creating a scenario. Each company then takes those shades and sells them at a markup. But the difference is they're not like, oh, and then I'm just gonna flip the shade. What they do is they put it in a curated color story, right? So these palettes are two very different palettes, right? This is a different color story than the Ensley Rain one. That is what private labeling is. It is buying a formula that already exists and then creating a color story with it and selling that, okay? That means they're not hand pressing the shadows, they're not picking the formula themselves, they're not going to a lab and working on it, but they are also not drop shipping, okay? I think a lot of people think that private labeling and drop shipping are the same thing. Drop shipping, I don't have a good example of, but let's make an example, okay? These are two glitters from ColourPop, but for the sake of this example, right, we're gonna pretend they're from different companies. This is from ColourPop, and this is from Yelly Cosmetics, okay? Let's say these were sold on AliExpress, okay? Exactly this way, these were sold on AliExpress. I then bought one from ColourPop. It does not come from a ColourPop warehouse. That means someone at ColourPop goes on AliExpress, buys this themselves, and ships it directly to me, but they are taking an upcharge. So I paid them $5, but this was only $2. But since I paid them $5, they're essentially making the order for me. That is drop shipping. Drop shipping is they do not keep product with them. They have no inventory. They buy it when you buy it, okay? And usually you could tell if a product, not just makeup, but anything, jewelry, clothes, whatever, you could tell if it's drop shipped if multiple brands are selling the same thing in the same package, okay? There's no change in color story, there's no change in name, there's no change in, you know, lid. That is probably drop shipping. You buy this glitter from, and I'm not saying ColourPop drop ships, okay? This is just an example, just an example. You buy this glitter from ColourPop. It comes in this package. This is the Sailor Moon glitter, if you're wondering why the package is so interesting. It comes in this exact package. Got it? Okay? You bought it from ColourPop. You buy the glitter from Yelly Cosmetics, and it comes in the same exact package. It is not tailor-made. It is not uniquely changed. The name of the company on the top is not there, okay? It just says Glitterly Obsessed, right? These don't say ColourPop. They just say Glitterly Obsessed, and they have the same logo and the same components, and we sell the same shades, okay? ColourPop sells the pink and the purple. Yelly Cosmetics sells the pink and the purple. That, without the change in packaging, is likely drop shipping. Now, I say likely because there's no name of the company on here, right? It's not saying this one's Yelly Cosmetics and it's in like a different package and this one's ColourPop and it's in a different package. Now, could we have both, you know, private labeled and come up with the same exact label and put it out and named it the same thing? Sure, there's probably gonna be a lawsuit over it. Now I want to talk about labs because people have a huge misconception about labs, but I'm gonna go in with a Blend Bunny B5 again, and I'm gonna go in with Muse right here on the outer corner. So what does lab made mean? There is another huge misconception around labs, okay? And that is because companies can use labs overseas. So a perfect example that Beauty Guru Chatter Reddit loves to talk about is Odin's Eye, okay? There's a lot of controversy on there about if Odin's Eye is private labeled and if they are a Swedish or a Chinese brand. Now, I'm going to, you know, put in the caveat here that I don't know like a lot about this subject of is Odin's Eye a Swedish or a Chinese brand, okay? Like I have no idea. I don't know where they're registered to do business. I don't know like who the owner is. I know nothing about it, okay? Like I cannot make a speculation on whether or not Reddit is correct if Odin's Eye is a Chinese brand or a Swedish brand. But Odin's Eye does not private label. Odin's Eye works with a lab in China. So here is another perfect example. You know who else works with a lab in China? Glamlight. And I have never once seen Reddit say that Glamlight is a private labeled Chinese brand, right? Because Glamlight is just made in a lab. The owner of Glamlight, her name is Giselle, will work with the lab in China, right? She will test out eyeshadows. She'll say, I don't like this one needs to be creamier, this one needs more glitter, this one needs to be more blue, etc., etc. And then she will curate a palette, and then they will ship her the completed palettes and she will send them out, okay? She has a formula that she has uniquely made with the lab, and she has tested colors and changed colors, etc., etc. And I don't want to speak for Giselle right now, but I'm just saying that's like how working with the lab works, okay? These two palettes are set on the back that they are made in China. That means they were made in a lab in China. Glamlight is not private labeled. You could usually tell something is private labeled by the continuation of shades and by the formula. Glamlight is not private labeled. They were just made in a lab in China. But Glamlight as a business is still registered in the United States, which means they are an American brand, okay? That was the example I wanted to give. I don't know where this like weird misconception of like they work with a lab so they like are automatically private labeling came from, because you know who else works with a lab? Literally like every mainstream brand. Pat McGrath works with a lab. You think she's sitting there hand pressing all your shadows for you. Natasha Denona works with a lab. You think she's sitting there pressing all the hand shadows for you. And here's another example, okay? Natasha Denona palettes are made in Italy. Is Natasha Denona then an Italian brand? No, they're not. Anastasia Beverly Hills, their palettes they made in the USA on the back, so they likely work with a US lab, like a US based lab. Lunar Beauty is another example. In Manny's videos where he launches palettes, he'll always tell you where the lab is that made the palette, okay? So he has said before that the newer Moonspell palette, for example, was made in the People's Republic of China, which means it was made in a lab there. He didn't private label it. But I have Lunar Beauty palettes that say that they were made in the USA on the back of them. Okay, he has used different labs. Another good example is actually Morphe. So when people use a lab, sometimes they could take like an a la carte formula, which is like what Morphe does, right? Morphe takes like this a la carte formula. Or they could tweak the formula. So a good example is when Jaclyn Hill worked with Morphe, right? Not that I support Jaclyn Hill or Morphe, but I remember when the James Charles palette came out, people were asking, is it going to be the same formula as the Jaclyn Hill palette? And she said, no, that formula is mine, and Morphe has like said that it's mine, and that is because Jaclyn went into the labs with Morphe and tweaked the formula to her liking. She said, this shade needs to be creamier, this shade needs to be sparklier, this shade needs to be more blue, okay? That's working with a lab. I don't know why people think that it is the same thing as private labeling. A lot of indie brands work with labs. A lot of indie brands also private label, okay? So we just said Fantasy Cosmetica, private labels. Ensley Rain in the past has at least private labeled. Glamlight uses a lab. Blend Bunny uses a lab. Ace Beauté uses a lab, etc., okay? Shroud Cosmetics hand presses. Menagerie hand presses. Terra Moons, Cleona, they hand press. So that is just something I really wanted to talk about because it drives me bonkers when they're all like, oh my god, it's made in China. I think that that is just like this weird misconception that, unfortunately, I'm going to lump us all together, but Americans have this preconceived notion that anything made in China is like cheap garbage, which a lot of things are made in, like how many things in your house are probably made in China, right? Okay. China is just a manufacturing hub of the world. Now, we could open up a whole other conversation about, is it ethical labor? Did people in a prison make it? Did children make it? Etc., etc. That's a whole other story. But it could have been made in a lab. Okay? A lab with children, a lab with prisoners, unfortunately, it could be. Or it could be made in a lab with like regular adult workers. But I don't know what it is that people think like, oh, it's from China, it's cheap garbage. But a great example is Beauty Guru Reddit loves Kaleidos. Kaleidos is admittedly a Chinese brand with a Chinese owner who lives in Shanghai, who works with a lab in Shanghai. So like, what is the problem with anyone else working with a lab? Anyway, all of that is to say that even if this palette is private labeled, that is like, it's not drop shipped, okay? That's the difference. Again, I don't know if this palette is private labeled. I can't find any information on it, but if it is, this palette wasn't, you know, bought and then sent from somewhere else. Ensley Rain definitely holds inventory of it because they have to also hand press all those shades that go in it. Let me know if you want me to do a more in-depth video about this, but again, Reddit drives me bonkers. But that's like a whole other thing because at the same time, Reddit is like, I have to keep reminding myself Reddit is such a small portion of the population. I'm gonna take the shade Good Energy right here, this hot pink, on a Blend Bunny B4. So on the Philadelphia Reddit, for example, for those of you that don't know, I live in Philadelphia. I'm not shy about saying that. I'm pretty sure it was in my Instagram bio for a long time, but I just had way too much in there, so I took it out. I am a Philadelphian, and I'm proud. Go Birds. Anyway, on the Philadelphia Reddit, there was a lot of talk about the recent primary mayoral election. So there were like 80 bajillion people running for mayor in Philadelphia just on the Democratic ballot. There was one Republican, which is like, I can't tell you the last time Philadelphia had a Republican mayor. I would have to look that up, but not since I remember it like living. Also never had a woman mayor, ever, which is very interesting. But anyway, I say 80 bajillion, but I think it was like 9 people were on the ballot, on the Democratic ballot for primaries. a lot of people were talking about it because also like all the people were kind of unknown entities. I think one of them had been like a city planner in the past or something, but a lot of them were kind of people who didn't really have a full political career. None of them were like the deputy mayor in the past. None of them were like the attorney general, like nothing like that. Like one of them was a person who just happens to own a bunch of ShopRites in Philadelphia, and he's like never even been on city council. So it was like, you know, kind of like a very interesting group of people that were running for mayor. Okay, I'm gonna take a Sigma E36 and I'm gonna take Muse and deepen up like the middle area where we used amethyst. So one thing is that there was not a single person on the Democratic primary ballot who didn't have some form of political or financial scandal. Okay, that was, you know, I mean, politicians, that's kind of luck at the draw at this point. I mean, it was like, even some of them, they like had speculation about their taxes, and like some of them handed over their tax returns and some of them were like, no, which I guess is their, you know, their business, but it's a little shady. This is an old BH Cosmetics brush. It came in a set. I don't know if they make these anymore. I don't even know what's up with BH Cosmetics these days, but it's number 6. I don't know what set this was in. I'm going to take the shade Amethyst and then a little bit of this one, Irisation. I'm holding it upside down for you. You can't even read it anyway. I'm going to blend out the outer edges of like the corners here. Anyway, the Philadelphia Reddit really liked this one woman who was running for mayor, Rebecca Reinhardt. And they talked about her a lot, and they were talking about how she should be the front runner, etc., and all these people are going to vote for her. But then they also talked about how this other woman, Helen Gim, who was running for mayor, was like the Democratic endorsed candidate. So like we were getting people coming to our door being like, are you voting for Helen Gim? Because both of us are, you know, registered Democrats. They were like, vote for Helen Gim. She's like our pick. I believe like AOC said that Helen Gim was her pick. Like other like big names in politics were endorsing this woman, Helen Gim. So Reddit was like, oh my God, like the biggest competition for Rebecca Reinhardt is Helen Gim. Well, when the election map came in afterwards, this woman named Cheryl Parker won. Notice how I haven't said her name at all yet, okay? This woman named Cheryl Parker won, which is actually awesome just because she is a black woman. So Philly has never had a woman mayor, but it's even cooler that like potentially our first woman mayor is going to be a black woman. She does have political scandals, okay? I'm not going to say she's like the perfect person, but I just thought that was like pretty cool because she would certainly make history. Someone posted on the Philadelphia Reddit when everyone was like, how could this have happened? Like we thought that Helen Gim was going to be the one, right? Who would be the threat. Somebody posted, and I'll see if I could find it and like put it on the screen or something. Somebody posted a map of like who voted for who based on region of Philadelphia. And there was like a small blip of an area that voted for Rebecca Reinhardt. And then like blips of areas that voted for Helen Gim. And then like everybody else, like every other area in Philadelphia was like primarily voted for Cheryl Parker. Okay, my memory card was full, so I had to switch it out. But I believe I was talking about how this map, right, that like everywhere else voted for Cheryl Parker. Okay? And they were like, how did this happen? And somebody made this comment and was like, because the Philadelphia Reddit is a small subset of the Philadelphia population, okay? A very small subset of the Philadelphia population. There are millions of people that live in the city of Philadelphia, and there are only a couple thousand of us on Reddit. And that is like the perfect example of how I need to realize that the internet becomes an echo chamber in a small fraction of people. And I mean, I think that, you know, is kind of like how the internet works everywhere. But I just always think that that's a very interesting example of like how when people on Reddit complain about things in the makeup community and I get irritated, mostly because they're ill-informed and then they create this echo chamber, I need to remember that there are like only a couple thousand on there and there are 7 billion people in this world. So yeah, that was my fun little story. By the way, everything seems to be going good with this palette thus far. I do like the mattes. Again, I'm not sure if they're private label and I'm not sure if they're lab made, but I will say the mattes in this do feel different than the mattes in the Strawberry Dream palette, which are definitely private labeled. I do have, I don't know if y'all can see that like at all. I do have a dry patch right here on my eye. So I wouldn't blame the palette for that because this eye does not have a dry patch and it's looking fine. So let's get my hair out of the way, huh? It's not just like... Well, I'm going to do shimmers on my lid now. So let me get some glitter glue. Oh no, I totally took this out yesterday and put it somewhere. Aha. This was NYX Glitter Glue. Well, it is still NYX Glitter Glue, but my container exploded. Like, I've been buying this for years. I've never had it happen before, but it was coming out the sides, and then when I tried to tape it, then the tip fell off, I guess, from the pressure, so I just put it on here. I know it's only a couple bucks, but like, I didn't want to waste the product, you know? This is just a flat concealer brush that I got in a BoxyCharm. I actually don't know the brand, but it says concealer and something, I think, in French. I don't think it's gonna focus on that, but anyway, gonna put on the NYX Glitter Glue with that. So one other thing that I wanted to bring up is collabs, because I thought it would be really fun to just talk about pie in the sky, manifest for 2023, some collabs for some people. In the innermost part, this pink shade Morganite, and then I'm going to take Alexandrite for the lid, and then maybe a little bit of Crystal Rain. Let's see how it looks. I'm just going to do it all with my fingers. So I did post on Instagram today who you all would like to see collabs with, so I'm going to read those in a minute. But a few that came to the top, like the forefront of my mind immediately. I'm sorry if you hear that buzzing. A fly came in. Let me take a pause and kill it. Hold on. Well, no, okay. Let's finish the eye first. Yeah, I think I'm going to take a little bit of Crystal Rain for the outer tail here, because it's like a periwinkle. Yeah. I don't even know if it's like gonna focus on that, but it's very pretty. It has like hollow sparkles in it. Hold while I kill this fly. Okay, we're back. The fly is gone. But I think it would be cool to talk about like who we would like to see get some collabs in 2023. So some people that come to the forefront of my mind, maybe because I'm biased and they're some of my friends. The first is Ratbor Kelly. I would love to see them get a collab. The first two brands that come to mind for them are Shroud and Simply Posh. I think Shroud like really fits their aesthetic, but they love a Simply Posh shadow, so that would be really cool for them. Glam Smitty, of course. I think either Terra Moons or Shine by SD, she would love. Chris from Glamigator, I would love to see them get a collab with like a graphic liner brand, whether it be like Suva Beauty, Glisten, Gavisi, like a brand that makes any graphic liners, or even like Bella Beauty Bar, because they did those graphic liners in M. Jones palette. But they just do some like really cool things with graphic liner. I would really like to see Multichromatica do a collab with Fantasy Cosmetica. If you didn't know, that they run the Instagram, so that's like pretty cool. So they already have like a really good pre-existing relationship with the owner, Jordan. And I would love to see them make one that's like their own D&D character, like the Miles of D&D, like what is Miles' persona in D&D, and they could like pick all the shades around like their personality or their like specific skills that they would have in D&D. I think that would be really cool. I'm gonna move on to base, and then we'll do under the eyes. I'm gonna prime with the Heimish Artless Glow Base. I was gifted this. Since I'm really dry right now, I'm gonna give myself all the moisture I can get. And I'm gonna use the Anissa All Over Treatment Brush. It has like the silicone core. I was gifted this as well. But yeah, I would love to see some of those. I mean, there are so many more that I can think of, but let's like read off a few that I got from y'all. Oh, another one that comes to mind before I read them off is actually, for a while, I thought that Lee from Basket Case should collab with Dandelions Co., but they actually did collab with Dandelions Co. this year, which was really cool. So that one, I guess, is, you know, it was just cool to see that come to fruition. All right, so let's see what you all said. Okay, Blend Bunny and Katy Cat Meow. Bad to the Brow Millie with Terra Moons or Cleona. Andromeda and Ritual Defeat. Oh, that's a good one. I would also actually like to see Andromeda with Janessa Myrix because they work very closely with, or Half Magic because they're more of like alternative, or even About Face. Andromeda could do a lot of collabs. Somebody said Glam Smitty and Fantasy Cosmetica, and that someone was Miles. So, Miles, I also said you in Fantasy Cosmetica. Babe of Moss and Janessa Myrix, specifically a Chrome Flaky collection. I think that would be really cool because Alicia, Babe of Moss, does do a lot of things with flakies. And then I got DD and MBA. That's everything that came in right now, but I'm sure there are going to be so many more, and I'm going to share them on my Instagram stories, so definitely check that out. But let me know below if there's somebody that I didn't mention who you would like to see get a collab this year with someone. Let me know who it is and what brand it should be. So I'm going to do some color correcting just because I'm red, and I have some red little guys down here. This is the Exa High Fidelity Color Corrector. It's the green one. I generally color correct around my nose and between my eyebrows. My skin is really red around those areas because of acne scarring. I know that like it probably doesn't look that way in camera or video, but trust me, it is red. This side of my face now by the window looks really dark, but I think it's because the window, but my apartment has like abysmal lighting, so I apologize. I think I'm gonna take the Haus Labs and mix it with a little bit of Glow Lust. I use Glow Lust Pyrite and then Haus Labs. I'm 190 light cool, which is like so deceiving because I have very warm skin, so I don't know what's up with the shade range here. I saw somebody on Reddit actually explaining how the shade range is supposed to work, but I didn't really understand it. I'm gonna take the Cosmetics Love as the foundation brush. So yesterday I went with some friends to see Joyride. It was funny, it was cute. My favorite character is for sure Deadeye, like 100%. If you asked me to describe my perfect foundation shade, I am like that person that every foundation company caters to. Like, you know, when they come out with like 50 shades of like light medium, I could wear like all of those 50 shades. So I have a very easy time finding foundation.
Or are you just bragging?
So my fiance just asked me if there was going to be a follow-up or I'm bragging. The follow-up is that it is unfortunate that foundation companies only make shades for me. And it is also weird that I am the most catered to skin tone. But I'm gonna use the Make Beauty Skin Mimetic Concealer. I am still trying this out, but this is the shade Light 4W. This is very interesting to me. When I got it, I was like, this is totally the wrong shade. It looks, I'm like looking at the monitor right now. I think you could tell. It looks very peach. Like, I'm looking at it in my mirror down here, and it's like, wow, look how peach that is, which my undertone is very yellow. But it blends in really nicely. I don't know if it oxidizes or I've just been buying the wrong shade of concealer my entire life. Favorite concealer brushes are dirty, so I'm just gonna blend this out with a sponge. Here are my favorite concealer brushes. Again, don't really, this one is, oh my god, the handle is so disgusting. Can you see that? It needs to be washed. This one is the Jaclyn Hill 08 from Morphe, and then this one is the BK Beauty A506 with Angie Hot and Flashy. This is like the perfect concealer brush. I think I want to buy a few more of these, just so like, you know, I don't use it like once in the week and then have to wait till I finish the week to wash my brushes. So I was thinking about this the other day. How do those of you that do your eyebrows before your foundation not get foundation in your eyebrows? So I'm an eyes before base person. I think we've already talked about that. I'm gonna take the Haus Labs powder for my under eyes only because I'm so dry right now. But I just don't understand. Like, I could get how people can do their base before their eyes, but I cannot get how people do their eyebrows before their base. Like, if you are an eyebrows before base person, can you just comment down below and tell me how you don't get foundation in your eyebrows? Because I've tried it and I just get foundation all up in my eyebrows. This powder is fine. I think people on the internet have like really hyped it up. I think for the price, it's like just, you know, it's fine. I still haven't found a powder that I'm like really vibing with for my under eyes since they discontinued the Too Faced Peach Perfect. So if you have a powder to recommend. Also, like, wow, the packaging gets, like, look at all my fingerprints on it. That's not even in focus, and you can see how disgusting that is. So I'm going to use the Kosas Brow Pop in black, and then I'm going to use the Kosas Airbrow. My brows don't need a ton of filling in, so fun fact, I grew up in the late 90s and early 2000s, and it was really cool to have the thinnest eyebrows ever, and I was born with really thick eyebrows, and kids made fun of me. And then I plucked my eyebrows really thin. And then, when I was in college, it was cool to have like the thickest eyebrows ever, and my eyebrows never grew back to what they were. So here's a lesson to not give in to peer pressure, because one day what they make fun of you for will be the coolest thing, okay? So I do really like this. This was my first time buying the Airbrow. I do really like this product, but this is my gripe with it. I just took the stopper out recently because I couldn't reach the product at the bottom without taking the stopper out. But then now it's like so much product. I don't know. But also like it looks really gross in there, you know? You can see that, but I don't know. Blush, bronzer, and highlight, I think I'm going to go all cream just because I'm so dry right now. So my only cream bronzer right now is the BeautyBlender one. I actually was gifted this through Influencer. And it comes with like this Super Shock-esque highlight, and I hate it. I hate the highlighter. The bronzer's fine. It's not like, you know, better than any other bronzer I've ever had. This is a crown brush I got in a BoxyCharm. It's good for cream products. I use it for cream blush and cream bronzer. I used up my Salt New York, I used up my Makeup by Mario, and I told myself like I just shouldn't buy any other cream bronzers until I use this because it is fine and it works and it's like the right skin tone, and I'm not going to use the highlighter. I'm just not. It's not the right shade, it's not a good formula, etc, etc. My review is on Instagram if you want to see it, but if you want this experience, just buy any other cream bronzer in the world and a Super Shock highlighter and you're fine. Not that I would condone anyone buying things from ColourPop right now, but that's a whole other story. So I'm thinking about blush, and like the perfect blush for this eye look is probably the pink one in the Likely Makeup Clown palette. I have a brush hair on my face. But that's not a cream blush, so let's see what pink cream blushes we have. Just because, again, I'm really dry. I don't know why though, I think it's because I got a little sunburnt. This is Rose from Salt New York. You can see it's pretty beat up. This is actually Sexual Frustration from Half Magic. This is more like, I expected them to be like a true cream. This feels more like a Super Shock blush to me, honestly. So there's, this one's Rose, and this one is Sexual Frustration. This one from Phytosurgeon's Singe is pink. Phytosurgeons followed me on Instagram 2 days ago, and I had like a mega fangirl moment. I looked at my phone for 2 minutes thinking that they accidentally followed me and they were gonna unfollow me. This is Singe from Phytosurgeons. And then I have two ColourPop blush sticks that lean on the pink side. I feel like most of my cream blushes are like orange, isn't it interesting? So this one is Cottage Life. This is more like a nude. I don't think it goes. Oh wow, that actually leans a little more orange than I thought. I totally thought that was like a pink. It's like a terracotta, I guess. And then Picnic Time, which is more like a coral actually. These both are like more orange than I thought they were. I think Sexual Frustration is gonna be our best bet for like a blue pink, but it's not gonna be perfect. I could just suck it up and be really dry and use the Likely Makeup blush. So this is the Likely Makeup Clown Blush palette. This is the color I was talking about, Carousel. It like really matches that inner corner color. But so would actually the Fairy Blush palette, has a pink in it too. I think it's called like Rose Quartz. Yeah, that one might match even better. The other one that comes to mind is that new Too Faced blush that I have, the like blurring whatever, but I think that one has a little bit more red in it than this look. Yeah, it's like, let's go with Rose Quartz from the Fairy Blush and just suck up being dry. I'm gonna take a BK Beauty 105. This is like that giant brush that Khaki uses that Hope Mess Tom like keeps talking about. But it is very nice for blush. So it's been raining a lot here in Philadelphia. It's almost like Florida-like. It's very strange. Like every day in the middle of the day it'll rain and then it'll go back to being hot and disgusting. Like, can someone explain this to me? I know that it's because of El Nino and something about a polar vortex and all this stuff, but I hate it. Like if I wanted to live in Florida, I'd live in Florida, and trust me, I do not want to live in Florida. Sorry to anyone who lives in Florida, but wow. I mean, your government. I'm just gonna leave it there. If you like the Florida governor, you could just leave my YouTube video right now. Okay, we're not gonna agree. But I can't believe it's already July. I don't know, I feel like since the pandemic, time has been going so much quicker. I don't know why I feel that way. Highlight, what do we want to do for highlight? Thinking this one from Bitter Lace Beauty. Actually don't know what this is called. I have to take it out to, oh, and I just gouged it with my finger. A+ for me. Wow, these magnetic compacts are very strong. This is Princess Cut. It's like a mixture of their two shades though. There's like a pink side and a blue side. I would use the pink side. Or we could just go classic Fenty Diamond Bomb. Let's use Bitter Lace Beauty. Let's do it. I haven't gotten a ton of use out of that one. I got it for an Indie Makeup Monday for Pride Month, and I did do a reel with it, but I haven't used it as much as the rainbow one, honestly. The rainbow one is like where it's at. I'm gonna take a Sigma FO3. Oh yeah, that's what I want. These are like not for the faint of heart. Like, look at that. If you don't love like a sparkly, colorful highlight, you're not gonna like these. If you like a Kaleido Space Age highlight, these are, I could actually compare them for you in a second, but I would say, you know, look-wise, these can look pretty similar. I actually have a lot of the Space Age highlights, so let's pull out the glittery ones. So like a good example is Ray Rider is just like taupe and doesn't have glitter in it. The original Mars Melter does not have glitter in it. But these four all have glitter. This is Diamond Dasher. This is my one with a pan in it. My left hand is stained from swatching earlier, so let's do some swatches with my left hand on my right. So that's Diamond Dasher. It's like a pink to peach. Let's see if I could get this to focus a little bit. Okay, that might be as good as we're getting. So let's do the two sides of this Bitter Lace Beauty. So this is the pink side. And then here's the blue side. Oh my god, those are like way more wet looking than Diamond Dasher though. Okay, let's do Moon Cruiser because it's blue, so we'll compare it to the blue one. It's like a blurple, but I have another one that's close to from Odin's Eye, but it's not like the same sparkliness. Yeah, look at that. Then we have the new Mars Melter. This one's more like a peach, while the old Mars Melter is like a pretty true like white to pink. I think the new Mars Melter is like my favorite Space Age highlight. And then we have Solar Sailor, which is like not even in the color story of these, but it does have some of that glitter in it. Not as much. It's probably a little bit closer to Ray Rider than I thought in my head for some reason. But yeah, that's all the beautiful glitteriness. Isn't it nice? Look at that. But yeah, the Bitter Lace Beauty ones are very glittery. Let's set our face and then we'll move on to lips and we'll be done. We'll be ready for me to sit on the couch and watch television and wash my makeup brushes. Well, actually we also have to put on mascara, but let's set our face first. So I have 3 setting sprays right now. This was not on purpose. I had just finished this one. This is the NYX Bear With Me. This is my favorite. It actually has the best longevity. I don't know why anybody doesn't talk about it because it is a drugstore setting spray. It's like 12 bucks. Urban Decay, I got this through like a campaign that they did. Then Joah, I got this one. This one like does not add longevity. This one I think just like does a good job of hydrating and melting in my makeup. And since I'm not going anywhere and my face is really dry, I'm gonna use the Joah. I feel like a lot of people wouldn't like this though because it has a really strong floral scent. Like it doesn't linger, but like it's there. When you spray it, it's there. I could see this irritating people's skin. I don't see any irritation in mine, but I'm not sure what the scent is from. But I'm assuming there are people out there who would really hate that scent. My Kaleidos fan finally bit the dust, so I just got a new generic black fan. All right, let's pop in an eye pencil and do the lower lash line. So let's pick a pencil here. This is the chaotic way that I'm organizing my eye pencils right now. And dropping them. I think I'm gonna go in with this NYX Faux White pencil in White Smoke. Ooh, it's like a lavender color. So let's do the lower lash line. Let's see, what do I want to do for the lower lash line though? Let's do like mostly pink on the lower lash line because the top is mostly purple. I think that'll make sense. Let's pull down my few pieces of hair here, which are also a hot mess, but it's fine. I'm going to take a Blend Bunny B3. It's like a tiny little brush. And I'm going to take Nephophile on the lower lash line. I don't think I'm saying that right. Is it Nephophile or Nephophile? I'm just gonna pop that on the outer edge of my under eye. Okay, Nephophile means love of clouds.
Nephophile. Nephophile.
Okay, Nephophile. I was correct. It is Nephophile, not Nephophile. I don't know. Okay. Katie really thought of some interesting names here. Then I'm gonna go in with Morganite and like pop that in the inner corner and merge it with the top. This shade also could have been a really nice face highlight, I feel like. Obviously not for the faint of heart, but like if you like things like the Bitter Lace Beauty highlight, I could see how this could be a nice face highlight. Which I actually think I'm gonna go back into the Bitter Lace Beauty highlight and put it on my brow bone. My mirror down here. Yeah, that's what I want. I'm like covered in little sparkles right now from those highlighter swatches. All right, I will put on some mascara and then we will come back for lips. Okay, we're back. Mascara is on. I am thinking I'm looking a little too dewy in some areas, so I think I'm gonna take my Make Beauty powder and powder a little bit, which I might regret if I get very dry. This is a BK Beauty 113, and this is my Make Beauty powder. Let's close this out with some lips. So the shade I immediately thought of was Poppy from Tarte, but it does look a little like less of that cool pink. This is Urban Decay DTLA. This could be good. Or we could do Kaleidos Pink Moon. Let's go with DTLA. Here is our finished look. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you had as good of a time as I did chatting about a bunch of different things. Definitely support your small creators, support Katie, support Tom, support all the small creators that I mentioned today. Make sure to check out the community codes list down below and support a ton of your small creators. I hope you all have a great day or night wherever you are. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I will see you soon. Bye.